Joining us this morning to unpack those numbers as well as the movements in the market is Joseph Busha from JM Busha Investment Group. Good to have you with us this morning, Joseph. The escalation of the Israel-Hamas conflict, we know, could affect oil production as well as transportation in the Middle East and OPEC+. Led by Saudi Arabia and Russia, there might be a need to re-evaluate its production cuts. What does this mean for prices in the short term?
So in the short term, certainly, good morning to you and to the viewers of eNCA. Certainly, this is not looking good. It's actually now going into a full-blown war, which does not necessarily augur well, I think, as you put it, for oil production in the Middle East. There might be that alliance in the sense that, they're being attacked, and this could curtail the production and again increase the Brent crude oil, which had come down slightly to $84 per barrel. Remember, just a month ago or 3 weeks ago, we're looking at it going above 95. But we did get a little bit of a reprieve in terms of it coming down. But this again could start seeing the rise of oil prices again, and to affect us in South Africa in terms of the retail price.
Perhaps let's backtrack a wee bit and take a look at how the JSE ended off last week. It ended in the green, and this is very much in line with global markets. And one of the positive contributors was the jobs numbers that came out of the United States. Tell us about those as well as the other positives on the day.
U.S. numbers came out about 336,000, for the month of September. The expectation was 170. The average monthly is about 267. So this really got the President of the United States, Joe Biden, being excited that, a job is a lot more than a paycheck. Which he recalls his father saying. So certainly, I think that was looking good. But I think in SA, it is not necessarily looking good in the sense that Nissan at our Roslyn plant is looking to cut about 400 jobs, which is 25% of their 1,600 jobs at the Roslyn plant outside Pretoria. So that really got the market excited. You saw the rand, fortunately for us rather, it did strengthen against the greenback and against some of the major currencies, the euro, the pound, sitting at about 23.61, 20.43 to the euro. But you certainly saw that we had weakened quite substantially to about 19 rands to 64 to the dollar. So certainly, I think that is good for us. If the rand strengthens, the oil price weakens, that could mean that we will not get a higher increase above possibly 1 rand per liter on fuel prices coming in the next 2 months or so.
I'm sure you'll agree with me, Joseph, that we actually have seen a battering of the rand quite consistently in the recent past. Could this be a turnaround in that trajectory, or is it still too soon to make a call on that?
Too soon to call. I mean, the volatility has just been massive and also disheartening, certainly, I think, for us as a country, given that we have all our problems as well, domestic problems in terms of power, in terms of transportation, with Transnet, lots of changes happening there. So it would be good, if the rand can strengthen and come down to 18 or even below 18 to the dollar. It will certainly help our ailing economy. And let's just keep our thumbs up. But I think it's a very tough call to make, given the volatility we've seen in the recent past. But we also saw that some of the commodities, gold, platinum, or up, silver, or up, apart from palladium, which is down, but everything else in terms of the commodities is looking very, very strong, which could support our industries in the sense that we are a resource-based kind of economy.
Let's take a look at some of the company news now. Tongaat has managed to secure some short-term funding. What does this mean for the ailing sugar business?
Not much, really. It is in rescue business or in rescue. And the money they're getting short-term is really for operational and a little bit of for the business rescue practitioners to use during this process. So they're looking for long-term solutions, to the business. Is going to delist, which really has been on the cards for a very long time, and that's not good for the KZN economy. As you know, that Tongaat is quite huge, or their presence is more in the KZN region. So that is really not looking good. But it's not the only stock that is delisting on the JSE. We have the debt-troubled, Steinhoff as well, that is delisting this week on Friday. And shareholders basically are only going to get about 20% of whatever they call contingent value rights for shareholders. I think that is really massive destruction of value, and that remains one of the biggest to date scandals in South Africa.
It certainly is. Do you believe that that is a fair roundup and a fair valuation as far as Steinhoff is concerned, and specifically with regard to its investors?
Well, the amount of hiding that was, in Steinhoff, the amount of destruction, as we all recall, was staggering. And certainly it cannot be fair to shareholders who had invested significantly. And I think, when it was really doing all the acquisitions and becoming one of the biggest global businesses, I think everybody in South Africa was excited, given that its roots are certainly in SA. But I think a lot of shareholders will not be happy with that, because that value still has to be determined in terms of the contingent value rights that will be bestowed onto that. But I think creditors certainly will confess receiving 80% of that value. But I think much has been destroyed. Remember when the stock came down in 2017, the share price was sitting at about 75 rand to the dollar, just down from 95, and dropped to 15.5 and almost to a penny stock where it is right now.
Finally, we have some economic data that's coming out this week, Joseph, mining as well as manufacturing. What can we expect there?
We might not expect much. I would love us to have good news for that, in the sense that mining contracted by 3.8. The problems still remain in the country in terms of the power solutions that needs to come on board. So this is going to affect two of our most important sectors, manufacturing and mining, and the numbers might still look not very strong to be able to encourage before as we kick obviously the last quarter of the year. So I think the numbers will certainly still be very subdued, given that there hasn't been much improvement in terms of supply of power, and companies will continue, to bemoan the cost they're incurring by basically using generators as a backup to the power shortages. But let's hope that things will start picking up. Other sectors like the retail, as we go into the festive mood, that people will start going to the shops again, and those numbers will pick up.
Joseph Busha, thank you so much once again for your market analysis for this morning, taking a look at how various companies are performing, the continued delistings from the JSE, as well as those numbers that are coming up. And we know those mining numbers coming at the back of that Joburg Indaba, which was focusing on mining. Not much change to be expected, in the sense that our climate hasn't improved as far as electricity and the provision thereof. That was Joseph Busha from JM Busha Investment Group.